Shalom, shalom. I'd like to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Brakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, blessing, and safety to all the Akim out there pushing this truth throughout the four corners of the earth and to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the world. This is the brother Abadia from the GMS Toronto camp coming back at you with another one. And this article is from the People's Voice. And, who warns about, one of those, what it says right here. In America, worse than 9/11 will hand Israel full control of the U.S. So I was reading this article, and, I found it pretty interesting, because, we've been warning, starting off with our apostles and elders about things that are going to happen, in the last, in the end times, and we are in the end times right now. There's a lot of talks of war, with what's going on in Iran, that, it's building up, but like we keep saying, that MOTB, it has to come before, World War III could really, escalate. And as I was reading this article, it kind of it very well paints that picture, you know. So before I start reading this, let me get a precept. It's just a simple one. 2 Timothy 3:1. This now also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. So, we're in the last days. These are the last days. And, that definition for perilous, full of danger or risk, very dangerous times. The very dangerous times that we're living in. Here's some of the, similar words: dangerous, hazardous, risky, unsafe, treacherous, vulnerable, insecure, exposed, at risk, in danger, difficult, perilous. So, these are the times that we're living in, and things are going to get more dangerous. You know, it's gonna get more hazardous out there. And that's why, we need, the protection of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and the elect. We're gonna be protected at the end of the day. But we have to also be wise. So I'm gonna read some of this article and just bring out some precepts. It's lucky. Been a busy day. But anyways, the walls are closing in on a global elite. Their conspiracies are unraveling in real time. Their cover stories shredded. The public has finally stopped buying the script. Concerned and desperate, they're rolling the dice on the big one. And it's funny, because a few days ago, um, well, I did an article, not an article, I did a video and an article about Trump saying, the big one's coming, that they haven't seen anything yet, the big one, and I was saying, what does that big one mean? What is it that they're getting into? This could, you know, this could fall in line with that big one, I don't know, but, you just putting two and two together. Military insiders and cyber defectors are blowing the whistle, a dirty bomb F, I'm just going to say FF, on U.S. soil, synchronized with a total cyber and communications blackout, power grid fried, banks frozen, phones dead, cities plunged into darkness and panic. And this reminds me of, Leave the World Behind. That's one that just comes to mind at first. This also reminds me of a dream I had, and I did a video on it about, everyone rushing to the bank, making bank runs because they're trying to get their money out of their account, but they couldn't. We're seeing, you see, these phones could easily, go down. You're seeing the problem with the YouTube. Sometimes you try to go on the internet on your phone, it doesn't work. So, it's very possible that, the grid could go down. And what better way to usher in, you know, a new world order, a one world order, and that MOTB than to shut the grid down, and have everyone go in complete panic. And these are things that we've been, that the men of Yahweh Shem Shai have been making videos and warning Jake about. You know, these sleeper cells could get activated. Um, these cyber attacks, these EMP attacks, that could happen. And these things could take place. And then what do? They have someone to blame it on now. They could blame it on Iran, Russia, you know, who knows? But that's how this devil, operates. This is First Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So this, that's this devil right here. He wants to go forth with his plans, in order to fast forward his agenda, in order to paint a picture. And shit, this is what we want this man to do at the end of the day, because you know all these things happening is leading up to the MOTB, and ultimately leading up to the return of Yahweh Shai. And I was driving back from work today, and I was listening to some videos, and the brother I was listening to, he was saying, that maybe this year the MOTB, could be made mandatory. And I just thought to myself, I just had a big grin on my face, and I was just smiling because I was thinking like wow, like you know we may finally be getting out of this place, very soon. You know, like you like we we may witness the return of Yahweh Shai within this year or next year. Like, and that just gave me a sense of peace. You know, just to think, that the kingdom is almost here. You know, just to think that that this way of life, is coming to an end, and righteousness is going to be set up. Meanwhile, while the world is in panic, while people are trying to understand what's going on, really and truly, the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai we're getting excited because we're moving that much closer to all hell breaking loose, and moving that much closer to the return of Yahweh Shai. You know, like to be, this is a very, to be in the truth right now, it's a blessing, and it's very exciting. You know, I can just imagine, how our apostles feel. Like they've been in this thing for decades. You know, and yes, things have always been popping off. You know, but nothing like now. You know, nothing like now. Like it's crazy. Anyways, back to this. Um, Let me read this a little bit of this. Let me start from synchronized with a total cyber and communications blackout. Fried, power grids fried, banks frozen, phones dead, cities plunge into darkness and panic. The playbook crystal clear: ignite outage bomb, pin it on Iran, and heard the masses screaming into World War III. Seize control of DC, shove every so called antizamate into Glugus, and roll out the one world government like it's destiny. This isn't theory anymore. This is the trap. Snapping shut and shutting down just hit zero. I'm gonna skip down a little before I do that. Another precept. Ephesians 5 and 15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. These are bad times. You know, with these sleeper cells, with these false, events that they're gonna carry out. They're gonna carry out. It's just a matter of when they're gonna do it. You know, because it when these things happen, it's very easy for them to scare people, like they did in 9/11, like they did in 2021 with that scamdemic. you know when these type of things get rolled out, it's very easy to manipulate and control people and get them to do what they want you to do, get them to do what you want them to do. And at the end of the day, Esau wants to push his one world government. Esau wants to chip everybody. So in order for him to justify him doing that, he's gonna cause chaos. He's gonna cause panic. You know, he's going to make the he's gonna make um the economy collapse. Fuck, gas near went up uh about 6 or 8 cents overnight. You know, because of what's going on over there in the Middle East. You know, so things could change and escalate quickly, and that's why when we're out there, we throw up those prayers, and are going in and are coming in are are going in and are coming out. So yeah, are going out and are coming in. We got to be mindful of what's around us. You know, can't just have your head up in the clouds when you're out there. You have to really be paying attention to who's around you. You know, because you know the times are evil. These devils are planning to do shit out here. Back to this. Ask yourself, why is the media actively covering up this information? In American countries, these countries host U.S. military bases. These countries are U.S. allies. The chaos and disorder is getting started, according to military insiders who warn of Israel's FF will not be limited to the Gulf. But before we dive into the details, let's pause for a moment on something truly disturbing. Israel has grown so confident, so untouchable in its position right now that they're openly floating ideas of FF operations. They're tossing around different scenarios, debating ways to stage incidents and mislead the world. That's all this devil's done. That's all this devil does is want to mislead people, to play out their agenda. All out in the open, according to a high level military insider, Israel is secretly plotting a major FF attack on American soil designed to be blamed on Iran in a calculating bid to terrorize the public and march them in lockstep into World War III. So, yes, war is going on right now, but it, it's gonna get a whole lot more worse. Right now this is nothing. You know, once shit pops off on American soil, like it did in 9/11, then things gonna blow over. If they do some EMP shit, or like it says, the phones go down, no internet, you know, then you see how quickly things will speed up. Jump down a little bit right here. The New World Order blueprint is rolling out faster than you can say Big Brother. And we haven't just seen blindsided by a stealth strike from the shadows. So they're trying to roll out that New World Order. I'm gonna jump down again. Before I do that, some more precepts. This is Micah 2 and 1 in the NLT. What sorrow awaits you who will lie awake at night thinking of evil plans? And this is exactly what this devil is doing right now. This man is thinking, okay, how can we plot these attacks and make it look like someone else did it? How can we plot them to take out the people and to fast forward our new world agenda, new world order? So Micah 2 and 1 in the NLT. What sorrow awaits you who lie awake at night thinking of evil plans? You rise at dawn and hurry to carry them out simply because you have the power to do so. Exactly, they have the power. This power was given unto them by the Most High, so they have the power to do so. When you want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. When you want someone's house, you take it by fraud and violence. And that's all America has done. They take things by force. They use that sword that they're blessed with, and they take it by violence. You know, they have no business going into these other nations. They have no business sucking up the natural resources from these other lands, but yet they do so. You take it by fraud and violence. You cheat a man and his property, stealing his family's inheritance. But this is what the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushai says. I will reward your evil with evil. You won't be able to pull your neck out of the noose. You will no longer walk around proudly, for it will be a terrible time. Yep. Because Yahushai, he's getting ready to come back and judge, the wicked for all the shit that they've been doing, for all their wickedness acts. Back to this article. This isn't science fix. the trap is closing. From 9/11 engineered chaos to Epstein's blackmail web, you know, it's funny, you don't even hear them really talk about that shit right now. That everyone was talking about the files, and now it's just all about war, you know? And it's not the first time they've done it. They did the same thing before, and then what happened in 2020, 2020, 21. Now Elon's digital pan- panopticon ties it all together, herding US toward a one world control. Let's be clear, this didn't happen overnight. The blueprint been circulating for years among the same powerful interests who profit from crisis and control, and now their script is being followed to the letter. Remember Klaus Schwab's notorious announcement about an impending cyber attack? I remember that. I was talking big on that. You didn't have to be a body language expert to see Professor Schwab's dangerous excitement when hinting about a cyber attack worse than 9/11 wasn't normal. They've been plotting. That's what I'm saying. They work that evil upon their beds. You know? Students of history know this pattern. The global elite are using Israel to steer the world toward a new world order, one that will operate borders, leave nations shattered, and pave the way for a single centralized system of control. From ruins to new world order will rise digital authoritarian and absolute. These elites, they bow down to Baal and hidden rituals. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into all that, but what are they going toward? Single centralized system of control, and that is that MOTB, Revelation 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So all this stuff going on right now, all this talk of war, the sleeper cells, the planned attacks, all of this is leading up to this right here. This is what they want to do. This is the ultimate goal. You know, the war and all that shit is just a way for them to bring this out. This is what they want to do, and this has to happen. This has to be made mandatory, you know, in order for Yahweh Shai to return. You know? So yeah. So we're gonna see. We're gonna continue to watch. We're gonna continue to blow the trumpet, and bring it out at the end of the day. But we very well know that if it's not about a matter of if, so whenever these devils decide to pull their stunt, whether that's an EMP, whether it's a bomb or an attack of some sort, that this is what they're gearing towards, is to chip everyone. And that's why we here at Great Millstone, we're telling you, Jakes, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives, don't fall for this devil's trick. Don't take the chip. Trust and believe in Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Follow him. Obtain the knowledge, obtain the understanding now, while it's obtainable. Because if they pull an EMP attack, and the grids go down, who knows if it's Who knows if the internet comes up, if this information is going to be even available? You know, these devils could very well just wipe it out. All the videos gone, all the channels deleted, or they may say, you know, you have to get that chip in order to log on. Who knows? You know, there's endless possibilities. That's why we stress and we say, you know, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. You know, don't put it off from day to day. You know, now is that time. You know, you see things. You know, turn on the news. You know, shit's getting wild right now, and the only way to get through, you know, the perilous times that are coming is with the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. There's no way around it. So that's going to do it for this video. I'd like to close out by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone, and peace, blessing, and safety to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. I pray this was edifying. Until the next one, Shalom.